You're listening to the Real Longevity Podcast, your number one podcast resource for living a longer life. Here we discuss topics on personal fitness, longevity, and real lasting elevation of mind, body, and spirit. Join us as we build a community of healthy men and women enjoying lasting levels of real health and vitality. If you're currently feeling frustrated with pain, flat, or fed up with aging faster than you actually are, you're invited to join us each and every week here on the Real Longevity Podcast. Welcome to the Real Longevity family and get ready to live a life you truly love. Hello and welcome back to the Real Longevity Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Hendricks, and today we had another outstanding, informative and elevating show for you. I'd like to welcome all first-time listeners to the podcast and be sure to stay to the end of the show where I will be sharing all my social media links where you can connect with me and the Real Longevity Podcast community. Welcome. Today's topic is one that is very close to my heart, something that I hear a lot of people struggling with because it's about something that nearly every person I've worked with has struggled with, maybe even felt ashamed about and blame themselves for. We're talking about willpower. If you've ever started your health and fitness routine or you've started on this transformation journey with the best intentions, you've eaten well for a few weeks, you've moved your body regularly, felt really good, and then somehow, gradually, or even suddenly, you've just stopped and you blamed yourself. You've told yourself that you're not good enough, you don't have the discipline, you've even said to yourself that you're maybe lazy, and that other people manage to do it, so there must be something wrong with you. We're talking about willpower. We're saying today, in the title of today's show, your willpower is weak, the real reason you keep falling off track, and what to do about it. Your willpower is weak, the real reason you keep falling off track, and what to do about it. Now, if that sounds familiar, I want you to know two things. First and foremost, you're not alone. There are many people out there struggling with this. You're not even close to being alone. A lot of people I work with, clients, willpower is a big thing for them. And the truth and the reality is, it's not willpower that was the problem. It never was. And today we're going to explore what actually is, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it. So let's jump on in. So let's talk about willpower, or the myth surrounding willpower. The concept of willpower as determining factor in the health and fitness space in terms of behavior is, in my opinion, one of the most damaging and pervasive myths in the fitness and wellness space. You may have heard things like this before. If you're not consistent with your habits, it's because you don't want it badly enough, or you lack the discipline. You need more motivation. You need to try harder. And the reason why these statements can be so damaging, it's not that just they're only incorrect. It actively prevents people from finding real solutions. Because if you believe your willpower is a problem, you keep trying to generate more of it. You're using what I would see as shame as a motivator. You make it so you think about getting a bigger goal, or you try to fire up yourself more. And that might work for a period of time until it doesn't, until the motivation fades. You've heard me say motivation is temporary before. The shame piles up, and you're even maybe in a worse place than you started off initially. So there's a lot of research out there, and the research on behavior change actually shows us some interesting things. Now, one of the things I identify is that willpower is a finite resource. It depletes as the day goes on, and as we make decisions, as we manage stress, and as we manage and navigate life in general, willpower can deplete. If you think by the time you wake up until the time you get up, get in on an evening after you've maybe been doing a day's work or been doing a day's full of activities, When most people find themselves reaching for the cheap foods, if you like, or the snacks and the crisps and the biscuits on an evening, and by this time, willpower has actually been depleted. When most people are tired, when you're stressed, or when you've had a hard day and you come in from work or it's an evening time and you start thinking about the things that you shouldn't be doing, i.e., reaching for the foods that you shouldn't be reaching for example, this is not human weakness. It's actually a neurophysiology. You've actually expended your willpower throughout the day. And you could argue that you're most vulnerable on an evening time. And here's another piece that nobody really mentions. When you are chronically tired and stressed and overwhelmed, which is the reality for a lot of people over the age of 45, juggling maybe careers, busy careers, stressful careers, family, aging parents, and all the other things that come in that age category of 45, 50s, and in your 60s, your prefrontal cortex, that's a part of your brain responsible for self-regulation and long-term thinking, it literally goes offline. You have less access to willpower when you most need it. So when you're under stress and you've got lots of things going on and life is just busy, as it is for many people in this age group, you're losing access to that because your brain is just preoccupied with all these things. So trying to tap into that willpower becomes even harder. So what does this actually mean for you if you find yourself in this situation? It means that the solution to falling off track is more than just willpower. So if you're finding yourself relying on willpower solely, but you can relate to a lot of those things I mentioned about being busy, having lots of things going on, certain areas of your life may feel a little bit overwhelmed. Willpower alone is not going to cut it. What it needs you to do is start to consider building a life and, more importantly, an environment in which those healthy choices are easy choices, they're not difficult things to do. It's addressing the underlying stress and exhaustion that is sabotaging your best intentions. And this is a piece I want to spend some real time on today, and it's thinking about connecting your health journey with something deep enough to sustain you through those inevitable difficult days. Now, I talk about drilling down on the why all the time. I'll give you that story about a client I was working with a few years back, and she'd come to me after a long period of time of trying to lose weight. And she'd lost weight, put it back on, lost weight, put it back on. And I asked her, why do you want to lose weight? The first initial response was, because I've been struggling with it for a while. So I says, why have you been struggling with it for a while? Well, it's because I've tried things, worked with trainers before, tried different diets, hasn't worked. Why is that important? Well, I really understand as I'm getting older, it's important for me to be healthier and get my weight down. Why is that important? Well, ever since my breakup with my boyfriend several years ago, I've not been able to. Why is that important? Well, I want to like to get back with someone and get into a relationship and start a family. So we were drilling down and understanding why she really wanted to lose her weight. Yes, she mentioned she wanted to be healthy, but when we drilled down and we found out what it really was, and for her, it was all about getting healthy, getting the weight down, becoming more attractive, finding a partner, and starting a family. That was her real why when we drilled down. So you need to have something that is deep enough to sustain you. So when you're thinking about doing the things that maybe you don't want to do, you're not just relying on willpower. You've got a clear, deep definition of why it's important that's going to keep you moving forward, even through those inevitable difficult days. And this is something that we talk about in the Real Rejuvenation Program. Love for longevity, as well as realizing and taking responsibility. So if you think about when we discussed this before in the program, love for longevity, this is the fourth principle in the real world. And it's perhaps one that I don't see very often talked about in the fitness and wellness space, but it's perhaps the most profound because it's fundamentally asking you the question, Why do you want to be healthy? What do you love enough to make the shifts that matter? What kind of life do you want to see yourself in 10, 15, even 20 years from now? You've heard me say this before. Your fitness without the right frequency is flawed and foolish. Your fitness without the right frequency is flawed and foolish. And when I talk about frequency, I'm not talking about how many times you do it. When I talk about frequency, I'm talking about aligning with your higher self, your true self, things that you really want to see in your ideal reality. You have to find the right frequency, and your frequency means the right kind of balance. Now, for some people, that might be being fit and healthy enough to play with their grandchildren. They want to be a grandparent who gets on the floor and plays with their kids and takes them on adventures. It may be for other people finding that sense of purpose, having the things they want to do and contribute and create and be a part of. And so they need the health and the vitality to do that. For others, it might simply be their relationship, wanting to be a vital and engaged member of their relationship. So they are there for themselves and their partner, so they can do the things, go traveling, have fun times together, but you need health and fitness and vitality for you to do that. And for other people, it might be just the freedom. You might be living by yourself, but you want to maintain a good level of independence. You want to be able to free to travel around, to do the things without moving around with pain and doing things basically on your own term. You've heard me talking about before, finding freedom through fitness. So when your health and fitness journey is anchored in something that you genuinely love, it's not a dress size or a scale number that matters. It's something that shifts away from it, something that's on a deep, deep level. The motivation becomes intrinsic. It becomes part of your identity. And this is what it's truly all about, is identifying with your ideal person that you want to be. So you're moving from something that you want to do terms of achieving a specific goal to identifying with a person that you want to become. Identity motivation is far, far more durable than willpower. So if you identify with someone, you don't have to rely on willpower. So we talk about it in the Real Rejuvenation program about that first principle is realize and take responsibility. This also plays a crucial role here. You need to take responsibility of your own health, which means understanding that it is you that are the captain of the ship and you are steering the wheel. Life is going to be full of obstacles, but you have to believe that you have the agency and you have the ability to take control of your health. It means getting honest with yourself, looking at the patterns, things that you might be doing that previously you might have been relying on willpower, but recognizing and understanding that's not going to cut it anymore. And moving forward with a high level of understanding yourself, not with any sort of judgment or condemnation. You're just understanding, you're saying to yourself, right, you know what, I need to be a bit more compassionate to myself. That way of doing things isn't really working. Because once you can see that pattern clearly, you understand, see where you've been maybe being a bit harsh on yourself, you can actually then move forward because you've got the power to change it. You've seen it. And you've always heard me say the first step of change is awareness. So when you see these things and you become aware of what you're doing or maybe what you're not doing, you can then make those steps, take those actions to move forward in a different way. Talking about steps, we're going to look at some steps now that you can actually apply that's going to help you. That's going to help you break that willpower cycle. So step one, find your deep why. So this is your task that you're going to do this week for me. You're going to set aside 10 minutes, driving, maybe watching TV, but some quiet time, and ask yourself honestly, what do I actually want to be in the next 3 to 5 years? Why do I want to be healthy? Not what you think you should say, the real one. What is the answer? I mentioned to you in a previous episode how I had changed the direction. Last year, I spent a lot of time being busy, but not really achieving much. I had to take a step back, took some time out, took some time away from the podcast and asked myself that question, what do I really want to achieve? And that for me was to speak to and help and engage with more people to help them find more freedom through fitness. So that means changing the way I work, changing the way I do things. So you have to ask yourself that question, write it down, make it as specific and as vivid as you can. So It could be something like, I want to be able to walk along the coast with my partner and not be in pain. So that's quite specific, and you can imagine yourself doing it. It could be something like, I want to have the energy to be truly present with my children. So I'm not distracted, I'm there, I'm playing with them, or my grandchildren, engaging with them. Could be something like, I want to feel like myself again. It may be that you find that you don't have the energy that you once did, and you're not feeling like yourself like you did before. What is it for you? Write it down, name it, and claim it. Put it somewhere that you can see it frequently and often, so you don't just forget about it. This is going to be your anchor. This is going to be your North Star, as I say. This is what you're going to come back to when the motivation dips. So that's number one. Number two, you're going to design your environment, not your willpower. So we spoke about willpower. It's a poor long-term strategy. We say that again. It's a poor long-term strategy. But your environment is a brilliant one. Your environment is something that you move around in every single day. So look at the spaces in which you make your health decisions. Talking about your living room, obviously your kitchen, your work desk, if you like, places that you visit frequently. Does that environment make healthy choice easy for you, or does it make it harder? Think about your environment. If healthy snacks are at eye level in your fridge and the biscuits are in the back of the cupboard, you will eat more of the healthy snacks and you'll avoid those snacks or things that you shouldn't be eating. So if those things are easy to access, it's easy to make healthy choices. If your walking shoes are by the door and your yoga mat is rolled out, you're far more likely to use them. You know your environment much better than I ever will. Is it conducive to becoming healthy? If not, what sort of things can you do to start structuring your environment, creating an environment that is going to be easier for you to make healthier choices? So that's step number two. Step number three, start small and do things that feel meaningful. Start small and do things that feel meaningful. One of the most common reasons most people fall off track is that they start with too much, too fast. I've seen it so many times before, especially like January. You know, everyone comes into the gym in January, but by the second week in February, they ghost. Why? It's because they bite off more than they can chew. They come in saying, I'm going to come down 4 times, 5 times a week. And they might do that for the first 2 weeks, but that's not sustainable. So they're bitten off more than they can actually maintain or sustain. So they go from nothing to doing 4 or 5 days in a week, or they go from no vegetables to a completely overhauled diet. You know, these things are not really sustainable. So you have to do things in a way that is going to be sustainable and maintainable for yourself. So the antidote to this is what I call the minimum dose effects, and it's something that you may have heard of previously. It's the smallest consistent action that you can take that moves you in the right direction. It could be saying, right, I'm not doing anything at the moment, but I'm going to do 10-minute walk every morning because I can do 10 minutes. 10 minutes is not chewing into my morning routine too much. That just could be just a simple walk around the block. It could be one nutritious meal a day, or 5 minutes of movement every morning, or 5 minutes of meditation or mindfulness. It almost sounds like it doesn't really have a bearing because it's so small, but it's the consistent action that makes a difference. You accumulate those 5 minutes of meditation or those 10 minutes of walking consistently over a period of time, they are going to make a remarkable difference because it's compounding and it's sustainable. When things crop up in life or when things don't quite go according to plan, you can and still should be able to do that minimum effective dose. Because life will get difficult, challenges will come up, but mainly 10 minutes walk or 5 minutes meditation is quite straightforward. It shouldn't be too challenging for you. So think about where you can start to introduce that minimum effective dose. And finally, step number 4, practice self-compassion as a health strategy. I'll say this one more time. Practice self-compassion as a health strategy. And this is not soft woo-woo stuff. This is actually a must do. And this is why we include it in the real rejuvenation, talking about again, love and longevity. Part of your psyche and how you're thinking about yourself, this is psychologically important. Research is increasingly clear that self-criticism and things like shame, these are most of the tools that we may be taught when we're growing up. But these things help us pull us off track. And they directly, and in some cases indirectly, activate our stress response. They raise cortisol, they reduce motivation over time, and they make it harder and not easy to get back on track. So if we're someone who's criticizing ourselves, or we're not being very compassionate with ourselves, it's easy to get pulled off track. So self-compassion is key. Self-love is key. Treating yourself with the same kindness you'd show to a good friend. And I've often said before, be your own best friend. These are the things that you need to start to cultivate and nurture, the way that you're thinking about yourself. When we're doing this, it downregulates stress. It makes it easier for us to acknowledge what happens without being too overwhelmed or catastrophizing a certain situation. And it makes it far more likely that you can get back on track and keep going. So the next time you do miss that 10-minute or that 5-minute walk, you're not going to be, oh, woe is me, and just, throwing your arms up in the air and throwing your eyes up in the air and thinking it's the end of the world. You're going to be looking from a more rounded and grounded perspective, So these are the things that you may be able to do when you're being more compassionate, being more understanding to yourself. And it's very difficult for a lot of people because their default is to criticize and condemn. But we need to practice self-compassion as a health strategy. So just like you're going to do to your class, or going for a swim, or going out for a walk, or going to the gym to lift weights, you need to practice compassion on a regular basis. Yeah. So it's not shaming yourself. It's not blaming yourself. It's being compassionate, applying grace and understanding when the time is right. So that is the 4 steps that you need to consider if we're going to move away from relying on willpower. So today we've dismantled that willpower myth. It's, as I said, one of the most persistent, and in my opinion, as a practitioner and coach, one of the most harmful stories in the health and fitness world. We've explored how connecting your health journey with love for longevity gives you a depth, and it gives you that motivation that willpower will never ever match or reach. And we've looked at the practical steps that actually build sustainability in your goal, in your practice, becoming health and fitness, but your health and fitness best, and your consistency moving forward. Step number 1 was talked about: find your deep why. Make specific and meaningful changes and write it down. What is it that you want to see your ideal self look and be like? Write it down. Number 2, design your environment. Make healthy choices easy for yourself. Think about your home, think about your work environment, think about the place you go. Is that environment conducive to your healthiest best? Number 3, start small and do things that are meaningful. If you do things too big too soon, you're not going to sustain or maintain them. Look to do smaller things, meaningful things, and be consistent over time. And number 4, practice self-compassion. Practice self-compassion. It's not indulgent. It's the fastest route back on track. Because let's be honest, you are going to fall off track. There are going to be days where things don't quite go well. But with that compassion, you can jump back on. If you want to come and find some community within the Real Longevity podcast, people like you who are on this journey of improving their life, upgrading their fitness, finding more vitality, why don't you do that in our Facebook group? I'm going to leave a link in the show notes so you can connect with us. Let us know how you're getting on. Free group is a real group of people doing exactly the things that work, giving them and helping them find freedom through fitness. And if you want to work through this with me personally, mapping out your deep why, building habits that actually stick, and creating a holistic plan that works for your life where you are right now on your journey, I'd love to hear from you. I'll leave a link. You can fill out the application form, and we can arrange time to talk about you, where we can go for a free health appraisal. Let's stop going around the same loop. We can find the right steps moving forward that's going to move you towards your ideal. So that's it from me today. I trust you found today's episode insightful and uplifting. Until next time, remember, be well, be wise, be cool, be calm, and keep it real. Blessings and chi. Take care. Peace.